Am I?
Sorry, I cut out there for a second.
No worries.
Say that again.
Are you doing play-by-play or am I?
I am pretty flexible when it comes to that, so whatever you prefer.
You might want to
Yeah.
do play-by-play. My play-by-play is a little rusty here.
Got it.
Anyway, so first map choice was Ilios, and I don't know who picked that. Might have been Turbulence.
Ready for battle.
Alright, another meta game. These are always fun. The more meta, the better. That's what I always say.
Okay. Are we already live?
Yeah, we're live right now.
Oh, okay then. Sweet. I need to get into the lobby. A little bit late.
No worries, no worries. Just tell me to get in. I'll, comment, over that.
No, I am in now, so it looks like we're ready to go.
Alright, this is good.
All right. Turbulence rolling out with the Esol on the Pharah. I know that's a pick that he likes to run quite a bit, so we'll see if he can get anything done against the double shields on the side of Soul. They're already going in deep with the Doomfist and the Reaper, but not finding anything, and Bakugo even goes down before he can get out safely.
Yeah, I don't see a kill feed up in here. It's a little weird.
Yeah, me neither. It's gotten a little bugged out on us, so we'll have to make do.
It's not a revolution stream if it's not scuffed.
Absolutely, and already pretty back and forth first fight here as the Coalescence comes online for why it keeps Soul in the fight for a little bit longer. Even as they lost a few members, they're not giving up just yet, but losing their Orisa down the well just might do it. Pick for Prez, pulled off the edge by Noro, and still they're trying to fight this one back and doing a pretty good job of it. That Meteor Strike not quite finding a lot, and Bakugo goes down, so it does look like Turbulence are going to give up the first cap here at the very tail end of that fight. Finally, Soul coming out on top.
Yeah, it just was really, really back and forth there for a while. Nothing really happened until they were finally able to kill one of the main tanks here. And that was one of the longer first fights I've ever seen. We'll see how they're able to bounce back. They're coming up and they have a lot more ults than Soul does right now. So they probably should win this next one.
Yeah, they're going to start it off with the Coalescence. They almost got a big boop coming in from Esol, but not quite. Bakugo will be the first blood here.
We're resetting here, so I guess we'll just...
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I get it. It makes our job easier to be able to see who's killing who.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me in the slightest, and now I get to be here from the beginning, so...
Yeah, we'll be able to actually be able to cast normally and say who's killing who. Oh, and a new map too.
Yeah, we get to start out on Ruins this time. All right.
Ruins is a lot better fire map, but it's also going to bring out the Widow here, or it has the possibility for them to bring out the Widow if they're going to run it. Seems like everyone wants to run Meadow, so we're probably just going to see Doomfist Reaper again.
Yeah, I don't think they will hit.
I already sent in chat, I hate Widow, so...
I can understand why. As a Pharah player, it does not make your life easy at all.
Keep going, sorry, man.
But he doesn't seem like he's gonna have to worry about it. I mean, Bakugo and Beepus both seem like they want to run those standard DPS picks. So
no. Pulling out the Genji.
I'm skeptical.
There it is.
I will believe a Genji when I see it roll out of the spawn doors, but no, it's not even going to be the Pharah this time for Esol. He wants to pick up the Doomfist as well, and that makes sense. I mean, here on Ruins, like the way the point is, you've got walls basically on all sides of it. The Doomfist so crucial in the current meta, so we'll see what they can get done with it.
Wow, that was a quick pick.
Yeah, already getting a double kill for his troubles, and you know the last map, we had a really, really long first fight. This might be a pretty quick one, but Beatfist is managing to find an answer there. He gets the kill onto air, but still so much ground being taken here by Turbulent.
Yeah, and at this point, Soul's gonna have the slight respawn advantage. They're gonna be there about a few seconds before Beep is able to get back, and that shows there without having both their DPS, they just get rolled.
Yeah, absolutely. They get back right on time, and Bakugo opens it up in a big way, gets the opening pick as they reaggress, as they get a really quick retake here on Ruins and start building up some percentage of their own.
Yeah, it's all about whichever Doom finds the quick punch into the shields and, you know, gets that first pick on someone. That's what this meta's about. It's just all about getting the damage through the shields.
That's why we see the Doomfist coming out in full force right now, and the Coalescence is out as well from both sides. No one going down just yet. Air gets really low in that fight, but will stay alive thanks to support from his team in a timely teleport. Now Turbulence ready to take the fight on the point. They've got everybody grouped up on the side of Soul and trying to find an opening. E-Soul gonna be the one to do it. Taking down Fridge, lands that punch into the clumped up members of Soul, and the rest fall like dominoes.
Yeah, that was actually a really good strategy by Turbulence. They set their Doomfist, Reaper, and Moira all the way to the right just to flank, and Soul didn't really pay any attention to them and decided to go after both tanks, and they didn't get anything out of it, and Air and Essel were just able to bully their backlines.
They definitely were, and now Soul on the verge of trying to aggress here. They're going to open up with the fluxes on both sides, the sound barriers to answer, but now just more and more ultimates coming out. Both sides investing heavily into this fight, but it's the supercharger coming out from Pig for Prez that's gonna let Soul surge forward onto the point. They've got that extra damage at their back. They've got Beefus coming in on the flank with the Death Blossom. He teleported in behind, and that'll seal the.
Yeah, at this point it just seems whatever team is attacking is winning the fight, and I think that's how you're going to have to play it on when you're defending this point. You just got to act like you're attacking. You have to be more aggressive than the enemy team. That's what we really haven't seen much from the defensive teams unless they're using ults. They kind of like to play it safe, and that's backfired for both defenses from both teams.
That's another tough defense on the cards here for Soul, as they do manage to get the opening pick off here, but now facing some ultimates on the other side coming in from Turbulence. Ballistica taking down Air as well, and we're gonna see our first successful defense here.
Yeah, and this isn't a good spot for Turbulence, because even if they can regroup, it's gonna be them rushing into point, and they're gonna have to send one person into all of Soul to try and get on point, but it doesn't look like they're even gonna be able to touch here.
I think they're gonna get in there. The Wraith Walk available for Air to get in position to keep that one going, and the rest of the team just now arriving. They commit the supercharger immediately. The Coalescence out as well, and they find the pick that they were looking for. Ballistic falls, and Beepus gives his life for the supercharger. That's not the best trade that you could have hoped for. And Turbulence at the last second gonna be able to get the retake here on Ruins.
And honestly, if I was Soul, I wouldn't have used any ults there. They're coming in, you still have a fight left, and you know they're going to be using ults because they need the fight there. So you just don't need to use ults, and then you automatically have an ult advantage next fight. And here they're not going to have ult advantage because they decided to use ults last fight.
Yeah, well, they'll still have quite a few at their disposal. The supercharger and the Gravitic Flux, the big ones, but the Flux out from Sirius is their first, forces out the sound barrier, and now the answer from the side of Soul is gonna find Pater. No sound barrier out from Lord, just a little too late to get that online, and now Turbulence are falling by the wayside. 3 members remain alive, trying to keep it going on the point. The Meteor Strike is the last hope for them, and it finds nothing. Just the Moira and the Doomfist trying to keep this going, but Tony is all alone now, and that's all he can do.
At this point, it's just going to be stagger, and it's going to be a win here for Soul. Unless they can have an amazing comeback here, which, you know, I don't really see.
No, they're just streaming in one by one, and the resources and the bodies are there for Soul to send them packing. Turbulence, a valiant effort towards the tail end there. It goes down to the wire, but Soul come out on top.
Yeah, I mean, it was honestly, that looked like a lot better map for Turbulence than we saw at the beginning before we restarted. They looked like they were playing a lot better together, and we already see "I hate widows" in the chat by Beepus. I think that's gonna be
Always, always, as is tradition.
yes. I like this tradition. So now Essel's gonna come out with the Far, and I think this is a good map for Faro. The way that Seoul needs to counter this though is they need to play on point. Far's not going to get much value if they're able to just play on point, and they're running Doomfist Reaper anyway, so there's no reason to really fight out here in the open. You take point, you're going to eliminate most of Far's advantage because she's going to have to come low ground to try and do any damage or into point.
Yeah, you don't want her to be able to just sit up at the top of the skybox and rain in rockets from above, but they're still taking the fight in the courtyard. They think that they can win it regardless, but now backing off, they positioned it nicely so that they can move over to the point they can park themselves there. And as you said, Isol gotta find these angles to get rockets in, and with two shields on the other side, that is easier said than done. But still, Turbulence trying to find an opening here. Air on the Doomfist, gonna be have to be the one to make it happen. He finds Bakugo, they slam into each other, and that is a disaster for side of Soul. They lose both their DPS in back to back, and now they're just scrambling to try to build up as much percentage as they can. They got the flip, so at least they get something out of this first fight.
I mean, yeah, that's a lot of percentage for that basically being one long big fight. And I think it's going to come down to, if the bar becomes too big of a problem, she already has her ult, that they might have to, you know, stop being stubborn and switch off meta to even a McCree or Widow or something. And that's what I don't see a lot of teams doing. A lot of teams really just like to play the meta. That's what they're comfortable with, that's what they practice on. And so, if someone runs something off meta, if they run a Pharah, they never really have counters to it.
Yeah, and they're not going to even need the barrage for this fight. They only use the Coalescence, does Turbulence. That's more than enough at the end of the day. Right now, Soul struggling to even get through to take a fight near the point.
Yeah, and honestly, they might be getting into some trouble. Here comes the Widow, of course. But they're already... Oh, a quick pick. Nice headshot from Spawn.
Okay, that's why you break out the Widow, and no res gonna be able to come in. Lure actually going down as he put himself in an awkward position to try to get Isol back into the fight, and now Soul, they just steamroll through the remaining members of Turbulence. Once they got those openings, the Far Mercy out of the sky, it was all over.
I think the worst part about that wasn't even that they lost the point. It's that they went into that fight, or Turbulence went into the fight having 5 ults. Now they have 1 ult, and they didn't even win the fight. That's the big problem I see here.
Fascinating that they decided to swap completely off of that Pharah Mercy as they want to go back to that meta. They want to punish the Widow here from Beepus. And they're just going to go straight to the point. Nice uppercut from Bakugo. Takes down Isol. And Ballistica gets the double kill with the Flux to keep this one in control for Soul.
This is going to be one of those times where they're going to have to try and go to this left side over here and try and push Beepus off the high ground. Or else... Because you saw that point, they went all the way to the right side and left him, and he got a headshot onto the Doomfist and was getting in poke damage here. And the number one thing about Widowmakers is you can't let them just sit there.
This time they are going to send Air to go try and go head-to-head with Beepus. He hasn't found anything just yet, but it's given them an opening to try to push in here. Still, Beepus in the back just free-firing in onto the back line of Turbulence. Takes down Noro, and the response from Air is too little too late as Turbulence in there, their last attempt here. The time is gone. They've got to make this one work for them, and they're just not finding the kills.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I feel like Air broke off that engagement way too early. I mean, he had nice cover up there. He could hide behind the things, wait for his cooldowns, and instead he went into back into the team fight, and his Orisa paid the price for it. He just got body shot multiple times from behind and died, and that's what really won
Victory.
Soul the fight.
Yeah, Air committed to the Widow to try and take Beepus off the high ground, but wasn't willing to continue the pursuit after that. He forced a cooldown away in the grapple, but didn't seek to keep on top of that. And Beepus punishes that mistake as Soul come away with the victory here on Ilios.
Yeah, I mean that was the second point, or the second map. They seemed to just fall apart. The first map was really close, but with Beepus switching to Widow, it felt like they couldn't do anything, and especially with them not really focusing her down and letting her sit there, it was just bad communication all around. And I could kind of tell that or Soul's Orisa was kind of yelling at Turbulence's Orisa was kind of yelling at Air to stay over there, because right as she died, Air went right back over there to try and contest her.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
Havana here, this is actually going to be a really, really good map for the Pharah Bastion comps here. And just because you're able to sit behind the roof as the Pharah and sit there, and I feel like Essel's going to have a fun time on this map.
definitely, and as you said, the Bastion's such a mainstay on this point. You can get it set up on the payload, get that pirate ship going, and it's also effective, on the defense as well. You sit at the top, the high ground, right at the end of that first stretch here on Havana, and that is such a deadly position for a Bastion to sit in. So I would not be surprised at all if we get to see that here.
I feel the way Turbulence is going to set up, especially with Essos, they're going to set up low ground right in front of the um the spawn, because Esso's just going to be able to sit behind that roof, and it's really, really hard to contest a Pharah from back there, because as soon as you get any damage on her, she just falls back behind the roof. The Mercy heals her up, and then she's right back into the sky shooting rockets from behind you. And the good thing about holding spawn is it gives you another fight. When you hold that corner or high ground in the back, you have to rush in to try and get this other fight. Whereas if you hold them up the spawn, they still have to push it all the way up this long pathway, and it'll allow you another comfortable recontest where you don't have to try and rush in and try and make something work.
Most definitely. I mean, that's a good point there. We're gonna get to see how Turbulence want to roll out on the defense here, if they do indeed go to Esil on the Pharah and park themselves at the spawn doors. It seems to be the case based on the hero swaps. You called it.
Yep, and it looks like they're running mirror comms here too, which isn't the worst thing to do in this. The one thing is, it's going to be a lot easier for Air to contest Bakugo on the Pharah than it is for Beepus to contest Essel on the Pharah. But the good thing about running Pharah on this map is you're able to go sit behind this, up on this roof of spawn, and try and contest the other Pharah up here instead of just letting her sit. And they're doing the thing where they all hide in this right room and try to pretend like they're not going to hold here, but they know they're going to hold there anyway. So I never got that.
Yeah, you don't really buy a whole lot of time there. They see you as soon as they roll out, so
Yeah.
it's interesting but ineffective. But now the Pharah is going head to head. Isol getting the kill onto Bakugo, but he's lost his Mercy in the meantime, and that's a rough place for a Pharah to be. Ballistica gonna be there with the punish. He can't get back to the rest of the squad, and that is pretty tough here for Turbulence. You've lost your kind of secondary source of damage, but Air is still managing to make it work.
Air killing 3, and that's the thing about this Bastion comp, is it's a lot like the Doomfist Reaper comp. You're fine if your Pharah dies because your Bastion is your main source of DPS, much like it is in Doomfist. You're fine if your Reaper dies because you're getting most of your damage from your Doomfist. So that's how you have to run these comps. Even if your Pharah and Mercy die, you want to sit there because your Bastion's going to be putting out a ton of damage, and they're going to get cocky and try to run into you, and you're going to be able to get picks off that, much like Air did.
And he continues to be a force here. So far, Soul really haven't found a way to deal with him or put enough pressure on him so far. They're struggling to get Beepus into position to lay into damage to break those shields. They're gonna try another attempt here now with Bakugo on the Widowmaker. Isol drops the barrage and gets punished immediately by that Widow swap. Beepus now finding his footing and getting a couple kills, and the tank mode might just be a little too late for Air.
That's one of the things about Bastion ult. It's one of the very few ults where you'd rather not use it. When it comes to Bastion, you get much more value and you get much more damage out of just not using the tank ult. Because you do more damage anyway just sitting as a Bastion. So a lot of the time you'll see teams use it after they've already kind of lost the fight in hopes he can get that quick one-shot kill on a few people. Ooh, nice headshot by us.
That is pretty nasty right there. Gets the kill onto the sniper, and that gives the 65 advantage over to Nevermore as they try to get this retake. They forced a reposition already out from the bunker setup of Soul, and now the biotic grenade, in as well. The nano take mode out for Beepus is gonna be pretty effective here. Gets the one shot onto Isol before getting lifted up in the air by the Flux. Takes down Noro for good measure as well, and that's all she wrote for point A.
Yeah, and at this point, it's gonna be hard because their Bastion's not gonna get back up in time, and they're gonna be able to push it past this high ground before they're gonna be able to set back up with Air. And what you usually want to do on the second point is set up this high ground because it's really hard for the enemy to contest you up there.
Oh, and losing Tony as well is absolutely brutal. Stuck his head out where he shouldn't have been, and now that's just going to delay this opportunity for a retake even more.
Yeah, and at this point, they're not even going to be able to contest this whole entire first half, almost 3/4 at this point, because they keep getting picks. And that's not going to help with the sights coming up from Bakugo.
And they've got all the information as to where Turbulence are going to be approaching from, and now they've got that amplification matrix as well, a little bit awkwardly positioned, but now as it makes the final corner here, it's going to be the amp matrix out for Air to power him up, gets the triple kill, make it 4 as Pick for Prez goes down, one short of the full clean sweep, and looking to take down Ballistica on the return.
And that's the one thing I think you can relate to, I can relate to, anyone who's played Overwatch within last season can relate to. It is so hard to get a Bastion off cart once he's already set up. And that was just a really good job of actually getting him off the cart there.
Yeah, absolutely. They set up quite nicely. They allowed the motion of the payload put Beepus into an awkward spot, and they capitalize on it. So now they get to set up on this high ground. Like you said initially, the tank mode out is going to force a reposition from the side of Soul as they're trying to push in here. The Blizzard committed by Isol freezes up both of the tanks, and they will fall. Ballistica and Pig for Prez go down, and without their front line, there's really no hope here for Soul to turn this around, although they do trade a little bit, but they're so separated. Bakugo's going to die here, and it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, at this point he just has to die here. He's just staggering himself. His team's already spawned in, and he's gonna die here, and they're gonna push into a 5v6. Yep. And that's just not a good play by Bakugo.
Yeah, I think they were hoping they could get the reinforcements in there in time to catch Turbulence a little bit off guard in that situation, but it just doesn't happen. They do get this high ground position, and with the Amp Matrix out, the Reset very deadly at the moment, but Sirius comes in on the flank. That is beautiful right there. Gets 4 at the end of the day.
Sirius, I don't know if you saw that, but Sirius also added a little tactical crouching there at the end of that. Insult to injury.
Look, he's just trying to dodge shots, man.
Yeah. See, and now this is where it comes in. It's much like Cart Bastion. It's really, really hard to get a Bastion off this high ground, and that's a bad pick too. Yeah, it's one fight territory, and they're gonna have to push in with like around 20 seconds here, and that's not a lot of time when it comes to trying to get something set up, especially with the Bastion here. But they do have the ult advantage, so that's a plus.
Yeah, I think the move here has to be open things up with Bakugo's Blizzard. At least use it to dislodge the Bastion from this high ground, and then you can use the rest of your ultimates to win the fight on cart. But as of right now, they're gonna approach on the opposite side. The May wall has separated them, but that will be dealt with quickly. The Blizzard from across the map. It is good.
Blizzard.
It is huge.
What a blizzard.
Oh, but no one dies just yet. The immortality field is better from War and Now. An opportunity for Turbulence to end things here and now. They break out the Bastion ultimate here, trying to find the kills. It'll be the accretion to take down Ballistica, and it's all falling apart here for Solo. They got into the factory phase of this map, and they just couldn't make any progress. Turbulence would stop them.
Yeah, with maps, with any payload map, the whole point of the Bastion, comp is to try and get the momentum, because once you lose momentum, as we saw there, it is not fun. It is not like easy to try and get that Bastion set up again. And I think they would have benefited from a switch there off the Bastion, as they never really got him set up. And when you're setting up a Bastion comp, it's even harder to try to dislodge a Bastion comp that's already set up. But on the plus side, I did like how Turbulence used their ults there at the end, and they didn't all just throw them out at once. They kind of staggered them out a bit. In the end, it didn't really matter, but it was a nice, valiant effort.
And I loved the location where Turbulence was setting up for that last fight. It gave them so many options to throw down that immortality field, and that's what saved them. I mean, the Blizzard was massive. It was basically perfect. Bakugo yeets it across the map and catches nearly the whole team, but they just don't have the angle to take down the immortality field and capitalize on that huge, CC ult.
Yeah, I've seen Reinhardt and Winston for Sirius. This is going to be interesting if they actually do try and run this Reinhardt. We'll see if they do.
The double shield here, as opposed to the Sigma, the Reinhardt has a little bit more, shield available, a little bit better to use for the Bastion specifically, because you can just kind of smother him in shields and make life difficult. But nope, the last second swap there, back over to the Sigma is more what we would expect. I like the addition of Isol on the Hanzo here. It gives them a little bit more shield break potential. They should theoretically be destroying the shields of Soul before before Turbulences are gone themselves. And it's not working out that way so far, but they've gotten decent movement on the card.
Yeah, and with how Soul's set up here, it's gonna be a little bit tough if they all get wiped here, because they're not gonna be able to, like I said before this match started, they're not gonna be able to contest for this second point. If they die here, they lose this first point.
That is definitely true, and now the res has been burned, so an opportunity. Isol gets the headshot yet again onto Bakugo, and now it's a 5v6 in favor of Turbulence. He's on the flank as well, firing in shots to the backline, laying in a whole lot of damage, making them uncomfortable. And now the nano onto air is going to make sure that Beefus falls, and Turbulence are just flying through the streets of Havana right now.
Yeah, and I mean, you just can't run the fire against that. So this man is a fire main. He knows exactly how you're gonna play. He gets into your head.
Oh, he absolutely does, and he hits the shots that are necessary there. Two fantastic headshots on the Bakugo, completely clip the wings off of the Pharah. Make sure that pick gets virtually no value. Even though the barrage is built up, they never get to use it. They never secure any kills, and now we're already into the factory phase with over 4 minutes remaining. The barrage finally comes out, gets one, and it's gonna be enough here for Turbulence to have to back off.
And this is where the fire becomes iffy for Soul, because once you get in here, it's kind of hard to run the fire because you don't have the skybox anymore. You just have a roof above you, and it really limits your mobility too, considering it's an indoor map.
There's a lot more threats at this point thanks to the low ceilings, and it's going to be a pretty ineffective start here for the side of Turbulence as they look to push in. They forced ultimates out of Soul so far, so that is going well, and they're slowly inching the payload forward. But Kugo goes down, but Isol traded back out. Now the Nano Bastion is out for the side of Turbulence, trying to keep this one going, but he's just firing those shells into shields, not gonna find anything. And Turbulence gonna have to find a new plan of attack.
With Turbulence here, I like the Hanzo pick. I think he should have stayed on it. There's a lot of flank mobility on this map for him, and all he really needed to do was go up to this top left high ground flank all the way around, and he can just hit the Bastion from behind, and that's an easy kill. The Immortality's not going to be able to come back fast enough, especially with the Storm Arrow. It's going to kill him in 3 shots.
Yeah, that was definitely an option there, but they're gonna go for the Mei approach here. They're gonna try to get right up in the face of Soul as they take this rotation. Actually, just gonna go straight to the cart, but Sirius all on his lonesome, trying to go in, create a bit of a distraction for his team to use. Goes down, and now an awkward spot for Turbulence. They're caught out by the barrage, and that was just an awkward approach all around.
Honestly, I like that approach though, and it wasn't the approach angle, it was because the rotation by Soul wasn't good, and they were saved by Sirius dying early off by himself and the barrage. Because if they go down on that cart, they move to to an area where their Bastion can't see anyone. They didn't try to go all the way around to the left. They sat him on the staircase, and he can't see the point from there. So I didn't like the rotation, but they did play good after the rotation.
And they're gonna continue that attempt here as they go right up underneath this bunker setup. They halt a couple of them off, and now it's an all-out brawl on the point. No one dying just yet, but now the Bastion on the high ground is vulnerable. No immortality field there to keep them alive, but it's still going to be a successful defense for Soul.
And you know what? I gotta say, I take back what I said about Fire at the beginning here being hard to play. He's already had 2 barrages in 2 different fights, and if I'm allowed to say this here, he's kind of carrying right now. He's gotten 3 to 4 picks every single time they've pushed in, and they need to focus him. And Turbulence is doing the same thing Soul's doing, where they haven't gotten the Bastion set up again, yet they're still not willing to switch off the Bastion on Havana.
I know they continue to try to pound their head against the wall here, and now Isol on the Sombra as a last-ditch effort, wants to get that EMP ready to go. The Gravitic Flux alongside the tank mode is exactly what Turbulence needed. Lift them up out of the immortality field. Air is there to capitalize, and this just might be the answer.
And at this point, this is going to be a very hard recontest because they're not going to get back with their full 6 in time, and Essel's going to have EMP here.
Yeah,
which
that could be the nail in the coffin.
And yep, and he has it up right now, and they still have to run in with not even a full team comp.
I mean, and look where Air has got himself positioned. How are you going to be able to deal with the Bastion? That EMP is massive, but Kudo the only one who avoids it, but the barrage, not enough to save the day for Soul. And at the very last moment, Turbulence able to get the distance on the payload they need. They take Havana and they tie up the series.
The only thing I was kind of worried about there, and this was both teams, is neither team was really winning any fights without the usage of ults. They weren't winning just off of normal picks. Every single fight that was won, they all had 2 to 3 ults used in them by Turbulence, and that's one thing I can see that's might be a problem why they're losing a lot of the these first maps, is they're just not winning any fights without using ults. And that could become a problem later on, especially in like final fights or in overtimes where they're not going to be able to really build up any ults if they don't already have them.
And I mean, I think that might be part of why they had some troubles there on control. If you're not winning fights when you don't have ultimates, it means you're not winning the first fight very often, and we know how important that is for any control map. So they're gonna have to potentially make some changes, but they do come away with the win there on Havana. An excellent defense gives them just I guess a short enough finish line that they are able to cross it at the end of the day, and they now swing the series back. They avoid going down 2-0, and now we're headed into map 3. It's gonna be Volskaya.
And Overwatch is a game that's all about momentum. No matter what meta it's been, it's always been about momentum. That's why rolls and when you cap the first point and rush on to the next point, you get those a lot because it enemy teams aren't really expecting a lot of aggressiveness, and that's how you have to play Volskaya. You have to be very, very aggressive on attack because on defense on Volskaya, on defense, it's one of the very few maps in the game where that benefits from being very passive about your defense and not pushing out and not getting too aggressive. And I think that's where Turbulence is going to benefit from because on the control point, they lost because they didn't really ever be aggressive. And I think that's why they have a good chance to win this map because I don't think they're an aggressive team. They played really well when they were able to just sit in a spot and hold that spot. That's why their defense was so good on Havana because they were able to just sit on a spot and sit there and hold that one spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that to me is kind of the meta playing itself out right now, especially with those Bastion comps. Obviously, going to be a bit better on the defensive than when you're trying to attack. Whereas, when you've got the other meta, the Doomfist and the Reaper in the lineup, you can get a little bit more forward. You can go for those opening picks, but when the Bastion is on the field, it really slows things down, and it makes pushing quite difficult.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see how this works out. Looks like they're taking a bit of a break here to warm your hands, as Careless said, and stretch out. So we'll see this next map on Volskaya play out. I have yet to see any team pick anything other than Volskaya, so I'm sure we're going to see the same exact thing that's been done on every single map, where they're going to set up on that right high ground with the Bastion and see how that works out. I've seen a lot of Bastion and Doomfist run here. Um, I haven't seen much of Symmetra, which has surprised me because Symmetra's really good. It really makes your what do you call them? Rotations easier because you don't have to it's hard to rotate on Volskaya
Yeah, no,
because the high grounds are way too far. You can't exactly rotate in time because if you try and rotate around the point, that's at least a take given up. And when you rotate down onto low ground, you get the risk of getting caught out by the Doomfist and getting punched into a wall right as you drop down. So Volskaya is one of the harder maps to run Bastion on, and Symmetra just makes that so much easier. Of course, when you do that, you are gonna be at risk for Pharah play,
yeah,
but
it's kind of a
that's a risk
trade-off
on any
there.
map. Yeah.
I mean, you kind of eliminate one of the major weaknesses of the
Mhm.
Bastion comp, which is the
Yeah.
lack of mobility across the board, and at the same time, you open yourself up to other issues if you're not running a Pharah of your own. At that point, it's really coming down to the Bastion to be the one to put pressure on the Pharah, but
Yeah.
that's not what you want your Bastion doing. You want him to be shredding shields and to be
Mhm.
making life difficult for the attackers to
Yeah.
into you.
Because that's the whole point of this meta, not just double shields. It's also being able to get damage, as I said at the very beginning of the stream, it's all about being able to get damage through the shields too, which is why Bastion, May, Reaper, Doomfist, all these heroes are all meta right now, and especially Symmetra, because Symmetra gains ammo when you shoot the shields, and she's doing 190 damage per second with her full charged beam, and so you're just shredding through shields. And then once their shields go down, you shred through the team, which is why Symmetra is such a good pick. And it's really surprising I haven't seen her played very much because she's a really, really good pick, especially on these control points and 2 CP maps. And May's a really good pick on Volskaya, especially for the second point, because and no matter where they push, there's always a chance to wall people
Traveling to
off.
Volskaya
And then you get them caught
Airspace.
out, and then that's a free pick every single time.
Initiating match.
Uh,
But again, it's just the meta. No one really likes to switch off the Reaper Doom or the Doom Bastion.
Yeah, pretty much. Those are kind of the two flavors that you've got
Mm,
going on, and there's some slight variations you can do within each of those. You can break out the May, like we were talking about. You can break out the
mhm.
Pharah, but it's still not a wide open meta
Yeah.
right now. You've got a few flexible options here and there, and the teams,
Ready
to
for
their credit,
battle.
that can take advantage of those options are the ones that I'm seeing right now that are really finding success. The ones who can run the Bastion to a high level and also go to the Reaper Doomfist when that is
Attackers
required.
incoming in 30
And
seconds.
it's honestly a lot like the GOATS meta. It's gonna stay this every single game until a team finds something kind of off meta to run that works really well against it. Like we saw Shanghai do in, I think it was the third playoff series. They ran the Pharmacy and it completely destroyed GOATS. And then that was at the time period where, of course, I mean, changing it to 2-2-2 helped, but that was the time period
5,
where a lot of
4,
teams stopped
3,
running goats and instead
2,
chose to run the Pharmacy.
1.
And that's how it's going to be in this
Attackers
meta. It's going to
incoming.
stay this until someone finds some other way to counter this. Because as of now, the only way to counter double shield is to run your own double shield.
More or less, that might be changing soon with a big balance patch on the way, but what is not changing is the success for Turbulence so far. Here they ambush Soul right as they make their way through the choke. They, for some reason, did not seem prepared for a Doomfist and a Reaper to be on top of them suddenly, but you've got to be ready for that kind of stuff right now. Maybe they thought the Bastion would be there and they didn't have to worry about getting through the initial choke, but
Yeah, and again, this Doomfist is just gonna sit up here, dive in, and do damage whenever the Orisa pulls. You know, as soon as the Orisa pulls, or as soon as you go in, you're gonna have a Doomfist on top of you, and that's where your Pharah has to come in. She has to be able to push him off the high ground before he can do that.
yeah, and she's got to be able to find a pick somewhere before they just collapse in on top of the front line like they have these last couple of fights. If you are going to run this far, you're going to be losing the ground battle, but you've got to find something before the fight really gets going.
Yeah. Again, Soul holding really well here right now.
Now Soul attempting to make their way through the choke here. A little bit more patient, giving Bakugo an opportunity to find something from behind. Now coming in, will take down Air. The Coalescence not in his direction, and there's the barrage. The patience
that's what-
paying off.
Yeah, that's what Bakugo has to do every single time. Is he has to be able to push in and get that pick on the Doomfist, because when you run Doomfist on Volskaya, there's so much high ground, and you're gonna be able to do your one-shot combo like we saw him do the first two pushes, where he seismic slams, uppercut, shoots, and then punches out, and you're not gonna be able to punish him because they don't have any stun on their team. So Bakugo has to find that quick pick on Air like he did there.
Air now in a really awkward spot, gets halted as he was trying to make his way back, barely waits it out. Now, looking for an opportunity to find some damage. Deep is going to take out that supercharger with the meteor strike, but the kill is still going in the direction of Turbulence for right now. They take down Beepus and punish him for that meteor strike, and now they are just dealing with the rest of the team one by one.
Yeah, I mean, that was a quick and easy fight win, and the issue I said last time with Turbulence doesn't seem to be happening here. They're winning the fights without using ults, and that's what I've noticed here. They've been doing really well on.
Yeah, the economy going much better for them so far here on Volskaya, but now Soul about to be building up to quite a few ultimates of their own. It's going to be 4 apiece heading into this next fight, so it's going to come down to who can get the most value out of that, who can synergize the best. It's going to be the Flux answered by the sound barrier. But, for the other side, Sirius uses his, and there's no sound barrier to stop it. That's the problem with running this Pharmercy. You don't have that huge ultimate, that best counter to the Gravitic Flux, and they just have to go on the retreat.
Yep, and I was just about to bring that up too. That's a major weak point of the comp. because you see Mercy, because a lot of the time you see the Fire Mercy run with a Baptiste, so he counters it anyway. But you can't run a Baptiste with this comp. Oh, Bakugo, no!
Tries to go in the back for the sneaky barrage and just takes himself out. Even with the supercharger out for Soul, they can't really get anything done in this fight, and are once again sent on the retreat. They have to back off. They can't stick around. They don't have the numbers.
Yeah, and Soul's doing kind of what Turbulence did the first map, using ults and not winning fights. Beep is switching to the Junkrat. Nope,
Yeah.
Reaper.
Okay. He was just
It
getting
just
off the
Swift
Doomfist to
swapped. Yep.
give it over to Bakugo and get back on the Reaper here. They want to go head to head back on the mirror comp here, but they are so far behind in terms of ult economy now. This is going to be such an uphill battle.
Yep. But Volskaya is one of those maps where you can get easy picks like that.
Oh, easy for Isol there. The Death Blossom powered up by the supercharger finds two, and they just steamroll Soul there. Perhaps, it was a really quick fight there. So I wanted, maybe an overcommitment of ults, but they only use those two, and they're still gonna have nearly everything else for the next fight.
Yeah, obviously the benefit of just being able to sit here and defend is really benefiting Turbulence. They're playing really well around it, chasing over commitments like Bakugo did there, and calling targets. And I think a lot of this is, like you said, it's just Soul overcommitting here.
Yeah, that time it was just Soul not checking their corners there, at least Bakugo not checking his corners. He goes up the lift, and Air is waiting for him on the other side, punches him back, and there's no escape at that point, and Air continues his rampage here. They're getting these stagger kills, and that is just ruining any chances that Soul has here. They're running out of time. If they finish this map, it's more than likely going to be an overtime at this point.
Yeah. And one of the first lessons I think any of us were taught in FPS shooters, especially if you play Call of Duty, is check your corners every single time.
And it comes back to bite Soul there, and now Air in an awkward spot, forced to use the Meteor Strike to get out. Not going to be able to commit for any damage from that ult. A little bit of a waste, but still, Torbjorns are loaded in this fight. They're going to open up with the Coalescence. The Flux out from Ballistica only finds one, and that's not going to be enough as Torbjorns are just slowly but surely finishing it off here. The defense on Volskaya just as strong as what we saw on Havana, and they've just got to deal with these stragglers from Soul.
Yeah, and I think Soul is going to benefit from the maps where you play aggressive, because that's their playstyle. And Turbulence is going to benefit from the maps where you play passive. So I think honestly, I think Turbulence is going to really struggle in the offense here, because you have to play very aggressive here. And this is interesting.
Yeah, Soul tried to make a fight out of this. Defense got in the Fridge was able to get there for the touch to trigger the overtime, but it was going to be desperate the entire time. They weren't at full strength, and Turbulence was right outside their spawn. It was always going to be tough, and they can't find any progress here on point B of Volskaya. So if they want to win, it's going to have to be a full hold.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a hard push, I feel like, for Turbulence here. They aren't the greatest of defensive or attacking teams here. And even on Havana, I think it wasn't necessarily a great attack, as they got full held for a lot longer than Soul did. Soul struggled on the first point, but they did okay on the second point. But again, Turbulence has struggles winning attacks when it especially without ults, which they did good on the defense here. They were winning fights with our ults, but I feel like they're going to struggle with that on defense here, as now we see the Bastion comp coming out. And almost near mirror comps, although I'm guessing Turbulence isn't going to run a Bastion on attack. At least I hope they won't.
I don't think they will, but it's definitely a possibility. If they were, I bet you'd see Tony on the Batiste as well, and that's not going to happen here. Air going over to the Doomfist, and so they'll be. I think this is going to be a tough attack round
Yeah.
for Torbjorn's.
Especially playing Doomfist. Doomfist is really, really hard to play into a Bastion comp, just because you can't do anything to a Bastion as Doomfist really until you get your ult.
Yeah, your CC is meaningless to the turret form Bastion, so Beepus not really having to worry about that matchup. We'll see if this is indeed how Torbjorn's want to approach this one. They're a little hesitant right now, going back to make some swaps. It seems like at least Air will be perhaps.
They're pulling out the Bastion on attack.
Yeah,
Wait,
Tony's
he's coming out
still
of spot. There it goes.
Okay, and there goes Tony. He's going to be headed back to get on the Mercy while War picks up the BAP to figure this out. Or actually, the Zenyatta. Now, that is a support hero that I have not seen in quite a while.
The thing about the Zenyatta pick is it's hard to get your ult up, but once you get the trans up, it's very good for pushing Bastion because the trans out heals any damage he's going to do. So when he gets his ult, they need to push, if they're still on this point, they need to push this top left ground and trans, and able to push it out. Nice rotation, though, by Soul over here, going to this left side.
Yeah, they see the approach coming from Turbulence, and they know what is coming, so they avoid it entirely. They're just going to set up on the opposite side. But Turbulence trying to collapse in onto the Far Mercy. They take down Bakugo. The res is there, but I think they're going to be able to get them again. Yes, both of the duo are gone, and that's exactly what you're looking for as Turbulence. The halt pulls Air out into the middle of the point, so Beef is able to capitalize, a saving grace for Soul as they try to stabilize, but still in such an awkward spot. Beefus will fall, and that's a quick point A.
Yeah, and that's one of the few, that's one of the few bad plays I've really seen from Bakugo. Is him just feeding there, and they're gonna have the 3-second spawns here anyway.
Yeah, that was, I mean, it was an impressive play by Turbulence there. They get the halt from Noro to set up the kill onto the far on the other side, and are able to take Bakugo out of the sky. So they punish him for a little bit of a mispositioning there, and now they need just one tick to take Volskaya.
But I think this is a really, really easy point to hold here. Especially with the Pharah, because just even looking around, you can see there's several different points the Pharah can just fall behind and get healed up by her Mercy.
No, I mean, it's definitely hard to find the Pharah, but they can find the Mercy. Bridge goes down. The Barrage only finds one. The Trans is there to save the rest of the team, but that Gravitic Flux might just save Soul here. They lose Noro and Tony, and what looked like a golden opportunity falls apart.
Okay, I kind of see why they picked the Zen here, at least for this first point. They've been keeping the discords on who was it? Bakugo, but as he switched off, they also switched off their Zen and are running a normal comp here.
So they're going back to the Mora. They've also got Isol ready to go with this Blizzard. That could be a great response to the Bastion in the back line if they can get in position to capitalize on it. So that's the big ult to watch here, and a lot of all the others ready to go for Turbulence here. The Supercharger out from the side of Soul as they
the Blizzard Eaton!
That is huge right there. Now, how does Turbulence push forward? They've already taken down Bakugo. They've got the Supercharger out. The Immortality Fields both staying up. But Bap is separated from his by that wall. Air capitalizes, pulls out the tank mode, gets 3, gets 4. And there it is. Bakugo goes in for a little bit of stall, but no hope whatsoever. And Turbulence seal the deal here on Volskaya.
I feel like Soul could have won that, but it came down to, and no offense to Soul, but it came down, well, more importantly, Bakugo. He kind of just fed both points. way out of position on his far. The first point got picked and punched into the enemy team with a Bastion set up with the Bongo out and got completely melted.
Yeah, a little bit of questionable decision making there, especially in that last fight. It doesn't quite work out for Bakugo. He gets a bit over eager, and Turbulence there. They punish it, and that's something you talked about when we were headed into Volskaya. The defense there, you need to be kind of sitting back and forcing the attackers to come into you and
Yeah,
responding to that. And
which is
Bakugo
why I
does the
thought it was
opposite there.
yeah, which is why I thought it was kind of weird they even s- considered setting up on the low ground. You don't want to set up on the low ground, especially on Volskaya. It's all about holding the high ground with their Bastion, and them setting up on low ground isn't exactly what cost them, but it would have been a much easier hold if they had just set up on high ground. And Eichenwald's another one of those maps where if Seoul can't figure out they need to stay high ground, they're not going to win their defenses here.
I
Because keep going.
I think anyone with a little bit of experience in Overwatch, right, at least in the current meta, knows that you need to set up the Bastion on this back high ground, at least
Hmm.
defensively. So
Yeah,
if we're not seeing that from both teams here, I will be a little bit surprised, to be honest.
yeah, and this is one of the maps where, much like who it was made for, Ryan Zarya is honestly a very, very good choice on attack here, even if they are running a Bastion comp. Because with the Ryan Zarya, it allows you to just uh,
Just
uh,
a little bit of pre-map shenanigans here as Sirius and Noro take their dives off the edge with the heroes they never get to play.
yes, the meta of actually being able to play the fun tanks like Winston and Reinhardt is dead. But as I was saying, this is a map where you could run the fun meta. You could run a Reinhardt here because it's really easy to be able to go up and play close range here, which is what a lot of the maps aren't about. It's not about playing close range. But this is one of the few maps where you can play close range, especially on the second point. Because even if they can't get set up on point because of the Bastion, you can always just walk into this back left room and push the Bastion. And you're playing close range, and Lore isn't going to have a very good spot to hide his immortality field.
No, but it doesn't matter here for the first fight as Air takes down Bakugo. No res gonna be able to come through, I don't think. Nope, the boot from Isol denies it there right as Fridge was trying to go for it. An interesting choice in composition here. Beep is picking up the Widowmaker. They want to try to deal with Isol and
What a
Tony.
pull.
The halt sets up the shot from the Widow, and now no res available, no support for Isol up in the sky. He's got to play so carefully at this point, and in some real danger here, but you still got the Bastion to deal with.
And honestly, at this point, if you're playing fire, it wouldn't be awful to just go ground
Oh, no.
fire behind your shield.
Oh, Bakugo gets the boot off of the high ground. He sends Lure to the low ground. No immortality field to keep Air alive. And now it seems like it's all falling apart for Turbulence. They get a res onto Isol, but he's cut down immediately by Beepus. And once again, Soul going to be able to push through here on point A.
And this is what we saw Turbulence struggle with on the first map. They're leaving Beepus alone. He just sat in the back there and had no pressure put on him. Of course, that's hard to do when you're already down and you're trying to contest point. But you're gonna have to focus him down. He killed 4 people there. And what we saw on Helios is they left him alone when he was on Widow. They let him sit in the back and do whatever he wanted to.
And now look where he gets to go set up. This is a Widowmaker's dream on this high ground of Eichenwald, overlooking pretty much the entirety of the second point from his perch. And now, if you're Turbulence, how do you push back in here? They're going to approach the high ground as well and try to not give Beepus the angles. But Bakugo, the one they need to worry about this time around, takes down Isol. And with Beepus behind them, where do you turn your attention?
Wow, man, and I have to give it to someone we haven't really recognized, Prez, the Orisa for Soul. Pulls have been stellar this map. Pulling him off high ground multiple times, halting the Pharah or Mercy mid-air and getting the pick, and Prez is honestly playing very, very, very good right now.
Yeah, the whole Soul team firing on all cylinders for this map, but Beepus gets booped off of the hole in the door there, gets collapsed on immediately. So a 5v6 for Turbulence as they come in here for the retake opportunity. They get Ballistica down as well, and that should be enough for them to stabilize. They lose one to the halt. Pick for Prez, coming up big there again, but it's not enough for them to stay alive.
What a poop.
Yeah, I mean, it gets serious, but it's not really gonna, earn Soul anything here unless Bakugo can keep it up and continue to find these kills. Now, Turbulence, they gotta back off. They gotta avoid losing anymore.
At the very least, Bakugo just went from sitting around 60 to 90 to his ult with that boot, because now, of course, with one of the more recent patches, you do get ult charge from any environmental kills.
Okay, now Beepus gives up on the Widow, but Bakugo comes in with the barrage, only finds Tony for his troubles, but still an opportunity here for Soul to push forward. The flux from Ballistica opens it up, and they will be able to push through, get over the bridge, and into the castle here on Iconwell.
Yeah, this is actually a really good push by Soul, and this is the map they need to win if they want to go to the tiebreaker map.
Yeah,
So, right now they're playing very well.
Yeah, they are responding well to the moment, and now they've got Turbulence on their heels a little bit. Bakugo, interesting, still staying with the Pharah even for this final section of the map, not swapping just yet, but might be headed back to spawn. Indeed he is. The Far Mercy is no more. The Doomfist and the Moira should be joining us shortly.
Yeah, and honestly, honestly, I wouldn't hate to see a Bastion on attack. As we all saw San Francisco run, he's really, really good on Eichenwald, especially when they're running the meta. Because again, it's just the Doomfist that is your main source of damage. And when you run the Bastion, it kind of flips on its side to where your Reaper needs to be your main source of damage, because your Doomfist can't get any damage. And oh, what a pull!
Woo! The halt sets up the Meteor Strike for Air, and he is there to get 4 at the end of that fight. The team kill for Turbulence as they stabilize a little bit here. They've been getting run over here on Eichenwald, and they needed that fight.
Yeah, and it seems like Soul has been pushing really well when they have a Pharah, but as soon as they swap off the Pharah, it always seems to stagger a bit. They become really reliant on all the easy damage coming from the Pharah. So,
and Bakugo there coming in off the flank gets greeted by War and Air, and that opening pick along with the Sound Barrier gives Turbulence more than enough to surge forward to take this fight and continue.
I don't know if it was just me, but that was a kind of confusing ult by Ballistica. I don't know why he'd flex there. They were already down the Doomfist, which is your main source of damage, and you're not going to win the fight anyway. They have the beat. And there's no follow-up damage, so I'm a little confused about that.
Yeah, well, now Soul will be pushing back in here without that ultimate. They're gonna open up with the supercharger on both sides, and Beep is gonna put it to good use. Gets in the back with the Death Blossom, finds 2, and picks off Noro as well. A good trade of ultimates there for the side of Soul. That's exactly what they needed.
Now, Sirius has to use his ult almost as soon as he gets out, because Fridge is only at 85 to his ult, but he's gonna start getting that as soon as they put damage down. So he's gonna have to come out and use his ult right away, like he's doing it right now.
Oh, and the halt sets it up perfectly. He finds Bakugo immediately. So much damage done by that Gravitic Flux. And there we go. Soul able to stabilize here. They get the fight win, and they will clean it up.
On the good note here, though, Turbulence doesn't have any ults, so they can do, for one of the very few times you'll ever see, they're going to be able to initiate with the beat. They're going to be able to push into them and have that extra, I think it's like 500-ish health that beat provides.
And they're not going to have to worry about much on the other side, just that coalescence from Tony, pretty much anywhere close to coming online just yet. That uppercut, though, for Air gets him almost to the Meteor Strike. He still goes down, though. hit by the accretion and stunned up. Now there is the opening for Soul. They're pushing forward. They've gotten 2 picks. They took down Lure as well, and now looking to get more. Ballistica finds his opposite number, and now they've got to find some picks if they want to be able to keep this defense going, but it's just not happening. Air comes down from the clouds and finds absolutely nothing. And Turbulence not going to be able to stop them. They do push it into overtime, though.
Yeah, that's one bonus they can pick up for this. They're gonna need to push it to all 3 rounds, but we'll see how this works out. The one thing about the final point on Eichenwald that we didn't really get to see there is they just got a full team wipe with the payload already close. It works a lot like a 2 CUP map where you can contest that almost infinitely because your spawn doors are so close and it's really easy to get out of the spawn. So we'll see if Turbulence is going to be able to push it to the 3rd point. And I'm guessing we're going to see what we've seen every other team since the Shock Vancouver finals do, which is run the Bastion.
I cannot imagine that Soul wants to put their cards anywhere else right now. My question is just what exactly is the response going to be from Turbulence? I can definitely see Isel going on the Pharah himself, but do they run their own Bastion on the attack?
Looks like they are, and I will give credit to Isel here. He's done a really, really good job of taking up a Kugo both on the Hanzo and the Mei. So
That's
we'll
true.
see how Bakuga's gonna play this here, as he's played really well when Essel hasn't been on one of those heroes. But whenever Essel has been on the Mei or the Hanzo, mostly the Mei, as we only saw the Hanzo on the first point of Havana, but when we've seen Essel run those, Bakugo's been picked off really, really early in fights, which is one thing you can't do. The reason you run the Pharaoh with the... Wait, never mind, they're not running a Bastion. Huh. I'm pleasantly surprised here.
Well, it's going to be Beepus on the Doomfist here for the defense, so a little bit of a different look than perhaps we're used to seeing right now, and maybe Turbulence will be caught off guard by it as well. Beepus going to leap down from the high ground. He forces out the Immortality Field, and he punches Air away, but now, yet again, he is caught out. The Doomfist play from Soul tonight has been characterized time and time again by dying alone and leaving the team without a huge source of damage.
Listen, let's not try and sugarcoat it by making it sound fancy. They've just been feeding on Doomfist, okay? We're gonna put it bluntly here. Their Doomfist have been feeding.
Okay, Beepus is back to try to redeem himself, but they lost Fridge in the meantime. So still a 5v6. Make that 4 as Bakugo goes down, and Soul offering up little resistance at this point. Rez, though, in on to pick for Prez is giving them an opening here to get back in. Air gets the nano boost as they want to finish this off. They want to seal the deal and make sure they get things done here on Eichenwald. It will come down in the end, and now Turbulence, they get it started off right here on Eichenwald. They'll get to set the Bastion up on the cart, and now the pressure shifts.
And I have to give credit to Air. He is a really good Bastion when it comes to him just being in recon mode. He came out, and I think every single time I've seen him go into recon mode, he's gotten 1 or 2 picks. So I want to congratulate him on that.
Yeah, managing to make good use of Bastions, perhaps, less common form right now, and now he's set up on the cart in the turret mode, forcing some changes from the side of Soul. They go over to the Mei here to boost him out of the Immortality Field, and Bakugo there with the barrage brings the hammer down, and Soul trying to regain control of the cart. They've traded 2 for 1 right now, but the res in here is giving them a chance. That Blizzard is devastating. Serious, the double kill off the accretion, and Isel with the hero plays here sets up his team for success, and they'll keep the payload moving.
Honestly, I was about to question that. It was only him and Sirius alive, but I mean, that was a really, really good ult. And it seems like what happened with Soul and Turbulence on the first map is the attackers are just kind of rolling them.
Most definitely, and now Soul just trying to find a way to get back here and recontest towards the tail end of the Eichenwald bridge stage, and the Bastion is set up on the other side. They can't close this ground. Ballistica does find one with his Gravitic Flux, but the Bastion still kind of unperturbed at the moment, has the Nano Boost, has the Supercharger, firing away, unable to get the Pharah out of the sky just yet. But
Oh, he
now,
got stunned out of it.
oh, that is disgusting. Serious falls. Ballistica coming up with the clutch plays there. That amplification matrix in an awkward spot. So many ultimates being committed by Turbulence to this fight, and they find nothing out of it. They don't even force the resources out of Soul.
Yeah, and that's something I've seen both teams do. Like when they start losing fight, they start to panic. They start to panic and use ults. And of course they can still win, but that's usually what seals maps, especially like this, is they're coming in with their highest charge ult being 71% on the Nano, whereas Soul has 5 ult, or currently 4 ults, coming up on 5.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason they used all those at the very end, they knew they were going to make the swap. So I understand that to an extent, but they just weren't effective. Now they're walking into the barrage. Bakugo gives them a face full of rockets, takes down 2 with the Coalescence as well. Soul more than capable of cleaning up the fight.
As we know, both teams hate Widow from the looks of the chat, but it might not be a bad idea to try and switch to the Widow here if they have any Widow or Hitscan players. Because Bakugo's doing a lot of damage, and now that they have Essel off the Mei, there's nothing to really counter him, unless they can get a pole rock.
You know, they've got to try to win the fight, you know, quickly and immediately by speeding in onto the members of Soul. But now the Flux has lifted them all up in the air, and Deep is gonna find the kill onto Air in this fight as Turbulence continue to try to find an opening. They nanoed Sirius, trying to build up to perhaps a Gravitic Flux here. He doesn't get a whole lot done. In Turbulence, you know, despite a hot start here on Eichenwald, things have ground to a halt.
And this isn't good, because they're closing in on 2 fight, maybe 1 fight if it's a long fight territory, and it's looking a little iffy, especially because Soul still has 5 ults.
Yeah, they've maintained their ult economy beautifully on this defense so far. They've had to use 1, maybe 2 for every fight here. Once we got into the streets phase in Turbulence, they've looked a little bit lost. They're once again gonna approach through the castle. Now they've got Air on the McCree, that hit scan threat that you talked about. He takes down Bakugo, stops the barrage in its tracks, but the Blizzard is there from Beepus. And once again, Soul come out on top.
And again, it's coming down to what's been Turbulence's problem this whole entire time. They have the inability to win fights without ults in their economy. And this is the most even we've seen the ult economy on this attack right now. I think this is the first time that it's been slightly in favor of Turbulence. And it's going into the last fight, and I don't know if they're going to have enough to be able to do it.
Ooh, they get Ballistica immediately in this fight, take down Bakugo as well. The swap over the Junkrat not working out for him. He had to get off the Pharah with Air on McCree, but now it's all falling apart here at the end for Soul. They've lost too many members. The Supercharger on the high ground nets them pretty much nothing, but they're in here for the stall. Ballistica on the Wrecking Ball knocks Sirius off the edge, and now an opportunity for defenders. They've still got to beat this up on the high ground, laying in Icicle almost to the Blizzard, gonna throw it on point, and that's not even necessary. They just finish it off here and there. Soul, they take Eichenwald, they send us to a tiebreaker map 5.
I think this might be the first tiebreaker of the season. I've been in 4 different games now, and I don't think I've seen a tiebreaker, so this is going to be interesting here. And it might be one of the first times we're going to see an off-meta hero, because Hammond is amazing on Nepal, especially on Sanctuary. And the only map you really don't want to run him on is Village. It's coming from me, a Hammond main, which is tough this season.
Yeah, not having a good time.
No, I peaked 3,900 last season playing Hammond, and this season I think I'm down to 3,600.
Ooh,
So it's not been a fun season. F in the chat, yeah.
F's in the chat. All
But
right.
this is one of the few maps where I genuinely think Hammond is a better pick than Double Shield, because the ability of Hammond to um, get the damage through the shield and build up the minefield really, really quickly, especially because this meta is also about sticking together. So when you're swinging through 6 people, and then you're going to slam down onto 6 people. And that right there is going to get you 60% to your minefield, and you're probably going to be getting your ult faster than most Moiras are, which is surprising because Moira's a little broken in this meta.
just a little bit, but
Guys,
we'll
come on, it's
see.
only 10% ult from her damage off. Okay, chill out, guys.
Okay, well, let's see if the Hammond is in play here for either team. We saw it make a cameo there towards the tail end of Eichenwald as Ballistica gets back out for the stall at the end and eventually helps them win the fight with a big knockoff. But now, this is an opportunity for more of those environmental kills as we start things off on Sanctum.
And essentially what Hammond does is it eliminates half of this point here, because it ends up forcing you to either play in this small room or play right back
Ready
into your
for battle.
spawn. And we might see a slight change with the Symmetra here, which is going to be fun. But
Yes, it
Hammond
might.
eliminated. Oh, keep going. I'm not bad.
I think the Symmetra here, if I'm right, it's more to get the team out. I think Isol might make a swap immediately after just to get the teleporter so they can get the Bastion into position as quickly as possible.
Yep.
I've seen a lot of teams run the Bastion here on Sanctum, and it's very effective right now.
Yep, and that looks like he's doing exactly that. Probably gonna switch to. Oh nope, Reaper. I was gonna say Dim Fist.
All
But
right, well, they get air into the position that they were looking for. So now, if you are Soul, what is the response going to be? Air up on the high ground, ready for you to try to charge headfirst into him. That might not be the best avenue of approach, but that's what they're going to go with. They're trying to get right on top of Air. The immortality field forced out, but they can't take down the lamp. Air continues to free fire, and they are going to get the first couple of picks. They are going to get the first cap. Get started off right here on the call.
yeah, that's a really good first take, and it's going to be kind of hard to dislodge the Bastion now, because he's most likely just going to sit in the back, and they're not going to be able to do much to do it. But this is a chance where they have to take it with the Bastion coming back.
Okay, but that amplification matrix makes the point a very deadly place to be right now, and no one can really put any pressure on him. The meteor strike is gonna come down right on top of the Bastion, doesn't find anything, and Bakugo forced away, but will find Sirius on the back end, takes down Isol as well. They get the flip mid-fight, and now things are turning around here for Soul.
Seen right now, depending where they set up, it might be hard to get the Bastion into position, because what you want to do if they're still running the Bastion is you kind of want to set up right here, because you don't want to be able to get that Bastion that long sightline like you had, but it doesn't look like they're doing that. You could also kind of just play in this back right room and try and play around and get your shield rotations down.
Absolutely. To be committed as this fight kicks off. The Pharah on the field from Isol here as they make some changes coming in, and they just force Soul back into this small room on the side of the point. They can't hold out there for very long, and eventually it's going to go in the direction of Turbulent. It's just how long can this stall come through?
And that's one thing about this room. Nice kill by Beepus on air, but it's not going to do much. Is this room is good, but also bad, because once you become too reliant on it, it's really easy for the enemy team to just push on a point and take it while you're trying to hide in that back left room, which is why the Bastion comp or the Hammond is so good on this, because it makes the enemy play in this room over here.
Absolutely, it makes playing on the point pretty much a no-go. And instead, it's going to be the high ground approach from Soul as they try to get in here, put some pressure onto him. But Air immediately takes down Beepus as he tries to teleport in to get in the back. And now, without that Reaper, you don't have a good source of burst damage to take down Air. You don't have an easy way to get in here. And as you continue to lose members, things get incredibly dicey for Soul.
I think a lot of what we've overlooked too, just talking about the DPS and so much, is they've done a really good job on their rotation shield-wise, and being able to keep their shields up at all times, and having the Baptiste immortality field, and having Sigma's kinetic grasp up. They've done a good job of having one of those up every single time.
Okay, last chance here for Soul as they put the Mei wall up to give them an entry onto the point. They've got to be there to keep the overtime going, but Air breaks out the tank mode here. Even trades at this moment a DPS for a DPS, but the Bastion still there, still looking for kills on the point, still breaking those shields so effectively. They lose lore, and now Soul has regained control. They've got a solid position here, but that supercharger is making Air extra deadly. The amp matrix as well. The pull brings both the tanks out into the line of fire, and they will fall. That's it for Soul here. It's just the supports and Beepus. He will fall, and so too will the remaining members of Soul. Turbulence gonna be able to come away with the victory here on Sanctum.
And I think they should have switched back. Hugo should have switched off of. Oh, there's a kill from the Hammond.
Yeah, he does get one there as they try to continue the stagger out here. But at the end of the day, they've got to be on point. They all have to be in line of sight of Air, and that's not a place you want to be right now. They eventually will fall in the celebration tank mode out from the Bastion as Turbulence put themselves on match point.
Yeah, and a lot of the ults that have seemed questionable, like the Bongo there, has turned out to be really, really good, and they've done a really good job of winning fights while they're down people. That's what I've seen from Soul. They've done very good just winning fights while down people.
Well, they're going to need to keep that going as we head over to Shrine here to keep things going on Nepal. Soul, they're running out of chances. They cannot lose this point or village if they want to win this series. For Turbulence, you're 1 point away, and we're going back to the meta, at least for Turbulence. Bakugo still on the Pharah here as we head into Shrine, a classic Pharah point, but will they be able to find the angles?
Honestly, I think Bakugo, one of the bright spots in his Pharah play, he's really been able to find these angles.
Yes, but a little bit harder here on Sanctum so far. Turbulence just takes the frontline fight. They surge on to the tanks of Soul, and they send them packing. They're once again gonna get the first flip here, and now it becomes an uphill battle for Soul.
Yeah, and everything that we talked about that Turbulence was struggled with, they've seemed to fix here. They're playing aggressive, they're winning fights without using ultimates, and they're just playing more as a team than Soul is right now.
Indeed they are, and now they're just kind of sitting back and waiting for Soul to try to make an entry here, keeping an eye on Bakugo, but he is still able to take down Air in the meantime, and now that's the go signal for Soul. They're pushing into a Coalescence, trying to stay up, but they lose Beepus in the meantime, trading out the main tanks as well, so an all-out brawl on the point seems to be going in the direction of Turbulence. As you said, they're staying together, they're keeping it going, and Bakugo finds nothing with the barrage.
That's one of the downsides of the Pharah here. You don't have anyone to frontline, really, when it comes down to just trying to get win fights. They only have oh, they're making switches now, but when you play the Pharah, you really only have the one frontline hero, which is Doomfist. So if you just play more aggressively on the ground, you're gonna win most of the fights.
And now they've got the ult advantage that comes from winning those first 2 fights. Isol gonna be the one to unleash his alongside that sound barrier. They get aggressive as we talked about. They know that the economy is in their favor and they keep it going. Now we're in last fight territory and 4 ultimates about to be online for Turbulence.
Yeah, and this is probably just going to swing the way of Turbulence. Most of the time, especially in Overwatch, whoever has more ultimates wins.
Okay, the dual flux is coming out here, and Tony gonna be the one to find first blood. Takes down Bakugo, and the rest will fall. A rough ending here for Soul as they go down on Sanctuary. Turbulence come through in a big way on Nepal. They get the win here. They close out the series 3-2. But boy, was that one close.
Yes, that was a really good series up until the last map where Turbulence just kind of rolled them. But other than that, it's a really close series. And I think what ended up deciding it is Turbulence fixed everything. Everything that was going wrong on the maps they lost, they fixed. They played more together. They used their ults better. They were more aggressive. They they just played more together as a team. They were winning fights without using ults, and it just all came together on Nepal, which was a little weird because I
Seems we
honestly
have a
had
consensus.
this because they 2-0'd them on the first control map on Helios.
Yeah, that I mean, I guess a little bit of turbulence kind of warming up into the series, a little bit of figuring out their opponents and fixing some of their own mistakes, and it's enough for them to pretty much dominate that final map to take home the victory here tonight, and
Yeah.
to get an impressive hard fought.
Yeah, I mean, if they're able to play that way, how they played last map, I can see them doing very, very well this season. Just figuring out their comps and being able to switch to counter, and especially that Bastion play has been very, very was working very, very well for them.
Yeah, absolutely, and they come away with the win here tonight, and we're still very early on in the season right now, but I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Turbulence so far. This was the first chance I've ever got to see Soul play, so I enjoyed that as well, and they put up a good showing here tonight. This
Mhm.
was uh, something that I wasn't necessarily expecting. With a new team like this, I never know exactly what to expect, but they
Yeah.
gave Turbulence a run for their money, and I think they
Mhm.
should be pretty happy with that.
I think one of the underrated players was definitely Pig for Prez. I mean, his pulls were amazing, and you know, I think if he's able to continue playing that way for Orisa, he's gonna be one of the leaders for this new Soul team.
Absolutely, and it's a good win here tonight for Turbulence tonight. Um, it's been a pleasure to get to cast with you for the first time, Soar, as
Yeah,
we go through this. It's um, yeah, it was a whole lot of fun.
yeah, sure.
Well,
I can.
I will let you take care of that because unfortunately
All
I've
right.
got to run. But
Yep.
good. Have fun with the interview, and
Yeah.
thanks everybody for
Thanks.
watching.
Yeah. Thanks for casting, man. It was fun to cast with you.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, we can bring Careless in here. Wow. I see how it is. Careless is who? I need to know what I should ask. Okay. But yeah, we can. I'll bring Careless in. I can ask him some questions.
Hello.
What's up?
Yeah. Woohoo, go me.
the
Yeah.
far, yo, yo, you on May was actually really, really good. I enjoyed watching your May play.
Big brain walls.
Big brain was. So you guys fell down 2-0 on Helios the first map. What was your mindset going into the next maps, knowing you just had a pretty one-sided loss on the first map?
uh honest just like thinking, hey, that's one map lost. We know we can be better than that. Like, let's swap around some of how we're playing. Let's get more into a groove of how we should actually play. Like, think more about every single option rather than just walking in the same thing. Swap around our comps more rather than running one thing and hoping it works. It's kind of what we were after.
Yeah, that was one thing I didn't like about watching this game. You guys, a lot of the time, you guys switched off, were able to counter. What do you think was your best map, and why do you think, or what about Nepal? What changed for you guys there besides what you mentioned before? Why you guys were just very successful on that map? 2-0'd them, of course, and it wasn't even really close. What made you want to, run something a bit different, which was the Bastion on the first point?
Nepal has always been one of our strongest maps, so that definitely played a bit into it, but definitely what got us there was I just kind of had to talk to the team like, all right, guys, we can do this. Just had a small mental reset there. Like, we got to just get back into who we are, get back into thinking, get back into creating these ult plans, get back into ult tracking. Like, we have to go. One thing I said specifically was, all right, guys, every single fight, we need to be making a plan. Like, what's the plan that we're going to do? How are we going to win this fight? How are we going to win this fight? Like, if we stop doing that, then now is when we would lose, I told them, and that's kind of what we did. That old planning and just planning how we'd play in general really helped us out.
Yeah, and I noticed a lot, especially in the games you guys won. You guys really did well on your ult economy. Did you guys talk about that in the comms? Because especially on Havana and Nepal, I noticed you guys almost always had ults, and you guys were using them a lot more effectively than you were on the maps you lost. Were you guys ever talking about we need to use ults better, or did that just kind of come around naturally?
That kind of just came around naturally of creating an ult rotation, and because every fight, I'll make sure that we don't use too many ultimates. Like, as a team, we decide we'll use this ultimate and this ultimate, so we have these ultimates for the next fight, rather than trying to invest 4 ultimates into a fight and potentially losing it. We'd rather invest 2 ultimates into a fight and potentially lose it. Because
Okay, and oh, keep going.
it's there's a very small difference of like win percentage that like between like how much you would win a fight between 2 ults and 4 ults. It's a little bit of a diminishing return there for how much value you get out of those ultimates.
Now, I think this is going to be the hardest question to answer
Mhm.
because you can't pick yourself, of course. But as the final, wrapping up question of the stream, you had to give it to one player on your team. Who do you think was the kind of MVP of your guys' game tonight?
uh, I'd say Noro. He really at the end there, he kind of on the maps we won and towards the end, he was really pulling us together. Like, all right, guys, we're gonna do this and this fight. He really got into the groove of how to play and was calling a lot of stuff. So he was calling Reaper and where we should position, where we should rotate. It was really helping us out to win the game in the end.
And that's what myself and my other caster, who unfortunately had to leave, is we were talking about how on the maps you guys won, you seemed to be communicating a lot more than
Yeah,
Soul was. You guys always had like we talked about. You guys always had your ults up. You guys were rotating your shields really well. You guys were rotating very well. You guys were, and one of the more impressive things I have to say, you guys were winning fights that really should have been lost. Like on Nepal, you guys were down a 4v6, and you ended up winning that fight. So it was really fun to watch. But that's all the questions I had. Thank you for
yeah.
coming on, and good job winning.
Yeah. I think what really helped us win those fights too, where we were down, was we knew our win condition and knew, hey, if we're down some right now, we should stall so we can get back. Because
Yeah,
if we're down some and they're not down some, we're at an advantage the longer this fight's gonna go. Because
yeah.
we'll get more value eventually and get more picks potentially.
That Orisa window combo on Nepal was amazing.
Yeah.
I was kind of questioning it when it first came out, but it worked really well. So
Yeah.
yeah, good job on your guys' win.
Thank you.
All right, and I think that's gonna wrap up the stream tonight. I don't think we have another game tonight. Um, yep, nope, we don't have another game tonight. So that was it. Thank you guys for stopping by, and I hope you guys have a good night.
All right. Thank you.